Welcome to the DNX Show. We're here every Thursday, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. Your hosts are Todd Ryan and Josh Reason. Can't wait to talk domain investing. Nothing is off limits. I'm trying to remember, did Josh get canceled this week? So much happens in the domain space. Anything can happen at any time. We have a packed outline for you today. I don't even have it. You can go to dnxshow.com for the show link, but I don't even have the outline up there. I have one topic and I just put just listen. Too much stuff. I got a list of, looks like about 30 topics today. Yep. You can get rolling anytime. Let's see if Josh comes blowing through here. Be a lot of people. A lot of people listening with, what did they call it? Anonymously. That's what I think is going to happen. By the way, you know how we like to do it, open discussion. So raise your hand if you got something smart to say. Otherwise, the rest of you can just come on up here and talk like you normally do. Not smart at all. But yeah, a lot of stuff going on, Josh. I was wondering if you had got canceled this week. It's hard for me to keep up. What's going on? How's everything going?
Yeah, good man. Yeah, I don't know. Not cancelled yet.
Yeah, you never know. I mean, you can try to make a joke and then, anyway, I never
I
worried
don't
about,
know.
I think Denzel said it this week. How could you get canceled if you don't play that game? But I don't know. I never changed, years before this cancel culture. Remember the Me Too movement too, when guys were like, I can't even say anything anymore. I can't even pinch somebody's ass and boobs. I never did that before anyway. So I've still stayed the same. Edgy, a prick to some people, and never worried about it because, yeah, I was always respectful. So, and I didn't, but some guy, I can't even
Problem is,
joke.
if you aim to
Yeah.
piss off no one, it's very hard to please anyone. Um, so I don't know. It's kind of tough.
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, you just got to be yourself within reason, right?
Yeah, and then people, what's unfortunate is a lot of people are themselves, and then some other people just don't like them, which is fine. Listen, all
Right.
of us
Yeah.
don't have a lot of, some of us, basically, the real world is some people, you can't get people to really like you if some people really don't like you. But there's some guys that I'll say like politically, I see eye to eye with. And I say politically because that's so divisive right now. That I see eye to eye with, and it's still not my cup of tea. It's still not the kind of guy I want to hang around with. And usually I'm all over the place when it comes to something like that politically. So you really can't, uh, I can't say I'm equivalent to anybody. Like a lot of us, we feel this way about maybe this topic or that way about that issue. But the point is, some people that I diametrically opposite of, that I think this guy just pisses me off. Sometimes I just like certain personalities, so I get along
Oh,
with them.
100%.
And
Some people are just super likable as well, and others are just unlikable, right? It's just I think that I think that like for example, Mike is super likable. Everyone loves Mike, but you can be unlikable.
but funny you bring up Mike. So he started this thing, Nerve.io, and
Yeah, it looks good.
hopefully he tells us a little bit about it sometime today. He knows we go for an hour and 50 minutes today. We're going a little short. We're going to give people a break right before noon because um, Fred at D3 is going to have an interview with Richard Lau, and it's not that I'm planning on doing some business with Doma Protocol myself, but the point is, this is about tokenization, and uh, Richard's going to tokenize hockey.com. We'll talk about it throughout the day, but it's a conversation that I think, geez, a lot of us talk about, tokenizing names, or we wonder about it. All right, well, these
Mm.
guys are supposedly, not only experts. D3 built the Doma protocol, which is fucking a blockchain that's, you know, um, supposedly to ICANN approved, or not ICANN approved, but something like that. Um, my point is, so we're going to hear straight from Fred, who I really enjoy listening to, and then what he's built at D3, the DOMA protocol. And then Richard Lau, big domain investor. He owned resume.com. You probably know this. And he started NamesCon, but he owns logo.com, built these companies out. And then he's going to tokenize hockey.com. Well, we want to know, why are you going to tokenize it? And then my question really is, uh, when those features for tokenization, like, hey, so people can invest in it, in fractions of, all right, well, at what value? I'll buy 10% of it for $1,000. Oh, that's not enough. I mean, what's the, because it all comes down to the valuations. And what is it, 10% for fucking 100,000? No, I don't want it then. So it really just comes down to, regardless of, how it's going to be fractionalized, because now it's going to be done on a blockchain. Still, what's going to be the value? But anyway, so that's after our show today. I'll bring it up several times. But Mike, we're getting back to Mike. Yeah, so he started Nerve.io, and I'm on the wait list. But I see you said everybody likes him, and they do. I was talking to John Berryhill on the phone yesterday. I had a call with him and Jason Schaefer because we're preparing for some of the things we're going to do at NamesCon. And I said, John, so you fucking say something to Mike about, the terms of service. John obviously is a stickler for terms of service for really anything, but in the domain space, he's always like the terms of service. And he posted on a post that Mike had was, who's we, who's our, OUR, and who's Nerve? I mean, is this an entity? Is it its own company? Basically, who are people connecting
Mm.
with, or so on, because you're planning on giving them, right, access to your API or something. I'll have Mike explain what the service is. I really like what he's developed there. Can't wait to start using it because it sounds right up my alley. I like to use the tools in that manner. But the point is, so I was going to ask you, Josh, DNX. All right.
Mm.
Well, somebody could climb up your ass and say, okay, DNX, what is this? A sole proprietorship, a LLC? I mean, what's the, usually at the start, well, what is
I
DNX?
want you cancelled. You're not climbing up my ass, man. That's cancelable culture right there.
Yeah. What is DNX? What kind of entity is that, if anything yet?
Yeah, it's an entity. It's a C corp. So yeah.
Okay, no. So, I mean, because usually at the beginning, companies, at least how I do it, start off things, see if they get traction before I decide what is the best way to form this company. It may just be, I'll take risk at the beginning. It's a sole proprietorship. It's like, basically, it's me. You want to come the fuck after me? Then that's it. But, I know, setting things up. Hey, Mike, nice to have you up
I
here.
think people in our industry love a good witch hunt, so
Yeah.
I would probably avoid sole proprietorships.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Well, Mike, hey, thanks for joining us. And so you
Hey
launched
guys.
Nerve, but what is it? Tell us a little bit about not only Nerve, but when I'm going to get access to it.
Yeah, launched Nerve on Monday. Launched it a bit early because Andrew Allman needed a podcast guest. So I stepped in. I'm like, hey, it's ready. And then when you actually as many of us who have launched something, then actually I'm like, oh yeah, all I need to do is push it to the live server from the dev server and we should be good to go. And then, everything seems to fall apart at that point because it's slightly different server environments. But it is up and running. I'm using it. Nerve is, the tagline is like um, uh, it is the backbone for domain management for the new agent and AI driven environment. And so what that means is that if you go to every single registrar where you have domain names, and all of us have domain names at multiple places, you have to use an API for each registrar. And an API is a application programming interface. So basically you use their language to talk, the way they've structured their language to talk to their servers to interact with your domain names at those registrars, uh, in the simplest terms. So it's like you signing into each registrar. Each registrar has a slightly different interface, table showing your domain names, how you bulk edit them, how you renew your domain names, things like that. And each registrar says, you don't have to use our interface if you don't like. If you want to build your own interface because you want your own domain management portfolio system or what have you, use our API. And so what I've done is I've created a backbone. I've created a way to normalize all those different APIs into a single nerve center called nerve.io. And so if you connect your accounts and then you learn or you use AI with a single API, a single interface into nerve.io, you can then pull back all of your domain names, for example. You can get a list of all your domain names from all your registrars with one call. That's the simplest case. So you could then update your Google spreadsheet or your domain management system or your own marketplace that you build using a single call to nerve.io, which pulls back all your domain names, all the create dates, all the expiration dates, all the statuses, all the name servers, and then you can look to see if there's any problems or you want to update anything, things like that. So that's Nerve in a nutshell.
You just, it's like they pull you back in. So you created this. Was it initially because you thought this is a tool I'm going to use? I guess what I'm saying, Mike, is I didn't expect, I know you've been working on several different things. I didn't expect you to come up with it's a cool tool for domainers again. I thought you were sort of veering away from domain tool type, projects. I don't know why, because I thought you were just
Yeah.
tired of domainers. But why did you develop this? Why
Not
did you
all
develop this?
domainers. Yeah, I developed it for myself because I wanted it for myself. I wanted to be able to monitor all my domain names um, without having to sign into each system and look at my domain names. And, I only have like 200 domain names total. And if one of them vanished out of my accounts, I wouldn't know it, right? Like they're not notifying me if a registry claws back a domain name or a past registrar claws back a domain name. We've all heard about it. Sometimes domains just go missing from your registrar account. And so I value my domain names. I want to keep track of them, just like I look at my Schwab account or my bank account or whatever. And I want to monitor them. So this allows me to, what I do is every 2 hours, I hit my Nerve listing of domain names and it pulls back a list. And then 2 hours from now, when it goes to ping it again, it tells me if any domains have been added to any of my accounts or removed from any of my accounts. And if they're removed, the faster you are, if it's taken from your account, the faster you are in responding to the issue, the more likely you are to get the domain name back. Because registrars are allowed to talk to other registrars, and there's a a unspoken rule about being able to pull back domain names, things like that. But if you wait too long and a domain name moves from one registrar to another registrar in a different country, all rules may be off and you might lose it, and then you have to use some sort of legal court order in order to lock it and go after it. So that's the worst case scenario. Best case scenario is like, hey, a domain just got removed from my account. Let me go see if there's a domain on hold in Afternic because I might have sold it and they might have like pulled it out of my account while they're verifying the funds or something. So a couple of use cases there.
Well, I'm glad you're here to talk about also. You're the first one that brought up a couple years back. You're not the first one, but you really detailed it about what happens when someone passes and about domain names. But you're talking now about names being transferred out of accounts, and I think it's going to happen in error more often now because of AI rule or AI instructions or some automated things. But let me ask you first, and then we'll get to my second topic. Is a couple years ago, could you have done this? Are you doing a lot of stuff with AI now with helping you build and code, and now you're realizing you don't need to spend money on engineers? I mean, is it fun to do? I mean, was this fun to put together? Meaning, did AI help you enough to where you felt like you could do most of it without having to get somebody else involved?
Yes, AI has been phenomenal. I don't think that anybody would be able to do this without any prior programming experience. but the fact that I do have some programming experience, some architecture, database experience, it has been a hell of a lot of fun to think about, have this idea, and I tried to solve this idea a different way in the past, um, and it didn't work out. And so I thought about it more. I'm like, I bet I could do something like this. And I had the, overall security architecture in mind. And then I was able to research it with AI, and I was able to think about it over a course of a number of days, um, and have a continued discussion. Then I'd go off and I'd go for a run or whatever, and I'd have another idea about it, and I'd come back and discuss it with the AI, and like finally get it to like sort of a PRD, a requirements programming requirements document. And then I would use AI, and I've been using Cursor for, I don't know, a good year or so now, and getting decent, pretty good at it. And then being able to go through and take it from concept to a proof of concept, and then actually use AI to then use my local system and try and, it's called a pen test, a penetration test for security protocols, to try and find ways to penetrate it and see if it can be hacked. It's been a lot of fun, to be honest with you. And so then when I got the proof of concept, then I continued to program. And so every single day I'm doing some programming on it. It is only me at this point. I'm still, we're not even alpha yet. I haven't brought on anybody yet except for myself, because I'm still trying to figure out, um, what if I were to bring you on, Todd, what's the minimum that you would need in order to have an aha moment with nerve.io? And so today I'm hopefully going to figure out, finish off allowing you to hook up your registrars and then get all of your domain names in one spreadsheet so that you can sort it, filter it, do things like that. And then from there, I think I'm going to look to the industry to say, well, what do you want first? Do you want to be able to renew domain names first? Do you want to be able to change name servers so that you can do automated updates to prove ownership for Spaceship and then move them back, to whatever name servers you use? I'm going to let the industry sort of dictate from that. But that's sort of where I am. I'm having a lot of fun with it. There's that saying that, if you're too early, there's no difference between being too early and being wrong about something. And I always think about when I'm building something, well, maybe I'm just wrong. Maybe nobody wants this. It could also be that I'm just too early for this. And I see agentic AI and, um, agents and bots doing everything for us in the future based on what I've seen so far. And it would be really nice to have this interface that allows us as individual investors to more easily control and have agents that do exactly what we want them to do. And without agent AI, all of us are going to be building interfaces to these APIs at registrars that were put out like 10 to 15 years ago, that are sort of archaic and don't have all the information. And, so I sort of look at this as a way for me to work with the registrars to make sure all their APIs are up to date, providing all the information that we need. I'm normalizing it from a technology perspective, but I can already cite a couple of examples where if one registrar did it, provided just a little bit more information in one of their API endpoints, it would make everybody's life a lot easier. So hopefully I'll be able to help in different ways make the industry more efficient.
I had a ton of comments there. Mike, one, I hope you really do. I didn't know that a lot of these APIs were out of date, and I saw some registrars, guys that run registrars, commenting that, yeah, our API is so out of date, and I didn't even,
Oh, I
you
wouldn't
know,
say that they're out of date. They all sort of serve their purpose, but they no most registrars aren't spending the time to keep their APIs as up to date as they can, given, our needs as investors or other registrants' needs as end users or what have you, because most people don't use the APIs, so they just don't spend a lot of time on them. That's the only point I was trying to make.
well, okay, you don't make a point so sharp here. You just beat. Okay, when you said
Sorry, bro.
when you said you wondered if you were doing the right thing, I was going to say you wondered if if people maybe if people don't like the creator, they won't use the thing. Maybe it's just you. We'll see. But Mike, I was gonna. Okay, so enough with the. I think what I would use immediately is one. Okay, so I want to have all my. I want to be able to log in and have all my names, be able to access all my names at one place across registrars. And then my first thing, as you mentioned it, then would be name server update. But then pricing is something that, which each platform has their marketplaces update pricing. Before I get to, we got a ton of things to talk about. Before I get to Darcy, Josh, did you have any comments or questions, anything about what Mike's doing? We're going to stay on the topic a little bit, but I just wanted to see if you're still with us.
No, yeah, I'm still with you. No, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. It's a cool product. I'm interested to see how it evolves. So, and then obviously we know Mike is a great builder, and yeah, it's cool.
Um, I don't know why Darcy's on stage. He just snuck up here. I talked to his brother this past week, a filmmaker. He's the smart one in the family, but then Darcy, he's got to do what he's got. Darcy, it's nice having you here, bro. What's going on?
Yeah, I just wanted to jump up because you were talking about nice guys in the industry, and I just wanted to say that you and Josh are two of the best, and I appreciate you for helping me with that thing the other day. And I want to encourage people if you're down below and you're intimidated or anything like that to get up and talk to these guys because you'll learn a lot. Um, they'll answer your questions, and if you can't afford to go to the conferences or if that's just not your thing, engaging on Twitter Spaces is a great way to build a network.
Yeah, thanks, Darcy. Okay, you can stay for a little bit. Hey, no, and it is true. And plus, you speak with people and you use your real name, then we want to be like, hey, so like I said, some people you get along with, like I told Darcy before, yeah, for some reason I can see me and him going, fucking man, shut the fuck up. But I mean, being friends. And the point is, then you also want to help folks with other things that they're working on, and you know them a little bit. So that's why sometimes you want to barge your way up here and say, hey, Mike Siger, I've fucking listened to you forever. I thought you were smarter in person. But no, it's fun. Then when you reach out to people, most of us, we remember, like a lot, everyone does. You remember who you've talked to, who, especially on these spaces. Some of us have, like I say, memories like Mary Lou Henner. I know all of you guys. Okay, that's why when I'm at NamesCon and I'm roasting people, it's going to be fun. I'm just going to look through the crowd and go, boom, you don't look good today. Go see a doctor. So I'm going to really have a good time NamesCon. But it is fun knowing everyone. And like Darcy said, you can't go to these events. I think I'm going to be at Domainer Expo. Ish is conducting here September 18th in Vegas, and it is fun to hook up. And I was just talking with Paul yesterday about it, King Sing. We just want to get together. We can get together here in LA, but we're like, let's get together there. We hear Vegas, there's not a lot of folks around, so we can have a good time and be the big timers at the tables. But all right, thanks, Darcy, for joining us. Mike, before we're going to transition to this delete.com domain that dropped. But before we get to that, because Barry Hill made a comment on that too. John, and I talked with John for an hour yesterday. He's freaking, he's crazy. He's a lawyer in this space. He's one of the smartest attorneys, domain name lawyers. I will just give him that because it is a special area of law. And John and I are on a couple panels at NamesCon. One of them is with an attorney named Jessica Neer McDonald. I look forward to being on a panel with her. I've never met her. I've talked with a bunch of domain lawyers, and they're not real familiar with her. And domain name law is a specific area of law. So you can get real smart IP lawyers that spend all the time with trademarks, all the time with fucking, copyrights, basically just applying or protecting companies. If they're not familiar with domain name law, it's fucking like, getting a doctor who's, he works on toes, not on, ears. The point is, John, very, very specialized. He's just basically one of the leaders in the domain name law space. And I was with him and Jason Schaefer, who are two of the most knowledgeable. And that's another reason what Darcy mentioned is get to know folks. Yeah, listen, I certainly love saying, hey, if you have issues, legal issues, You can run them by me. I run them by a bunch of lawyers, and we can tell you to get lost if no one wants to help. But believe it or not, sometimes a cease and desist, sometimes people can word things weird ways. But anyway, so I bring up Berry Hill because uh, he mentioned about your terms of service, Mike. So is Nerve.io? I know you're just getting rolling. How would you answer John, when he's saying, who are we, and all this stuff?
I didn't even see his comment. We, it's a part of my LLC,
So
and I
stick that
thought
in
I'd
your
put
pipe
that.
and smoke it, John. He's probably listening.
Yeah,
But
I don't know. I find it. Lawyers are hilarious, right? Like, if I listen to my lawyer about doing anything, I would never do anything ever again. There's risk in everything that we do. Um, and while I have lawyers, I use lawyers. I like paying my lawyers for the input that I get. And I think John is one of the best in the industry, and I would definitely consider using him if I were to do a UDRP. But as I'm trying to see if there's any interest at all for a product in the industry other than myself, I am 100% going to build it first and see what goes. I I'm not worried about the terms of service because nobody's using it right now. And I'm going to onboard personally the first few people to make sure that it's useful to anybody. And if it's not useful to anybody, then I'm going to shut it down, or just use it for myself. But if it is useful, then the proper order of operations is to then lock down the terms of service and make sure customers are feel safe using it and have the recourse, things like that. So, proper order of operations is the way I look at things like that. Technology first, proof of concept, make sure it has value, then we'll lock down the terms of service.
right,
That's right.
go ahead, Josh.
100%. I just it's so funny because I hopped on a call with a lawyer the other day, and it's just like Mike summed it up so well. She was like, this lady was like disgusted at me for all sorts of different things, and she's like, we should have done this first. You should have got this set up then. And I'm just like, yeah, well, I'm calling you now, and we'll do it now. It's just like, she's going on about how there are people that just start doing things and then work things out later, and then the other ones that kind of move slowly and get everything set up appropriately first of all, and you know I don't want to be the second one. I'm much more interested in in getting things done, and then worrying about the things that you pay a lawyer to
Exactly.
do.
Problems can be figured out. That's why we're paying them to figure things out. But whether as a builder who's launched many things that haven't worked out, and most people launch things that don't work out, um, launch it first. See if it's got any traction before you spend any amount of serious time on it. You know, I, I
Especially at
try to,
$500 an hour.
yeah, exactly. You know how many domain names I can buy for $500 an hour?
Yeah.
You guys just motivated me. I just built this. It's like it's a test aircraft. I'm gonna get my neighbor's kids on it and just see if it runs. I don't know. I don't worry about it. No, but I agree with you 1,000%. I mean, I've said it all the time because as an entrepreneur, I tell a lawyer basically when I'm talking, just write down shit. Okay, you just write down stuff. Okay, I'm over it. And the constant roadblock get in front of you as an entrepreneur, and it is true. Some things, depending on if you're coming up with a food product or so on, you might it depends what testing you're doing. But the point is, yeah, that there was other areas of business too that I think just constantly want to roadblock you. And Josh, you bring it up that yeah,
We're lucky to be in the US, operating businesses in the US, because it's much easier here than just about anywhere else. You go to you go to Europe, you go to the UK, just constant blockers. Like, and that's why this is such a great place for entrepreneurship. So, you know, we're very lucky.
getting to the delete.com drama because John um, chimed in there about doxing people, and was it really the owner? And he made some good points there about well, first about was that the actual owner that people were trying to find out? I'm not really sure the whole story there. All I know is our friend Michael, who was reaching out to people. That's his internet. I mean, his X address or handle is chiropractor. But it basically delete.com dropped, and some people knew it was from this domain investor who now she's older. Can somebody reach out and try to, get their family to, renew this thing because they thought it might go for, and Josh, we'll talk about pricing too. They said, I think it doesn't, still goes for a few days, but it may go up to, I don't know where it's at now, but you thought it probably 350,000 would be ridiculously high priced. And I'm not sure what to think. Heck, I'm off all the time. But so this issue of delete.com, if it's stock or cash in an account, Mike was mentioning Schwab and banks. They don't get to keep your money. It's either go to the state or the estate. I mean, basically, they don't just get to keep it because you didn't claim it. But this is a little different because it's a domain name and you didn't renew it and you never owned it in the first place. So there is a difference. But what um, what do you think should be done, Josh? And then Mike, if you want to tell me what can be done if someone is older, they forgot to, whether they've died and their relatives forgot to renew, or they're just old and they forgot to renew, and it's a super valuable asset. What responsibility should the registrar have?
Well, I think the answer to that question is none. I'm a, you know, I'm quite, I'm business orientated, quite business orientated person. I think that, you know, I have a lot of valuable domain names, and I think that it's my responsibility to make sure that if something happens to me, uh, there's a procedure in place that doesn't, like, these things don't end up happening, and that members of my family are able to take control. Um, you know, especially if I'm old and sick, or something along those lines. I think that if it's something a little bit more sudden, um, and there are circumstances around it that maybe are unusual, I think that it's certainly a nice gesture of the community to try and help said person out or help their family out. But at the end of, if if someone's owned a name for 25, 30 years, got old, and doesn't have anything in place uh for passing that name down, I think, honestly, I think it's their responsibility, and it's not the registrar's. Doesn't have anything to do with the registrar. I think the registrar's, whether the domain is worth $1 million or worth $5, that should not make much of a difference, to be quite honest with you.
Mike, when you came up with you know, a plan for folks to basically pass on or to put their names in a trust and so on, were any registrars like, hey, yeah, we'd like to offer that to our registrants? I mean, was there any sort of acceptance, or they would, adopt something like that, try to help out the registrants for, to maintain or keep their names and issues of death and stuff like that?
Yeah, I think GoDaddy and Dynadot did some things to help clarify what to do, bringing on other people into your account. Todd is referring to an estate planning PDF that I put together with a lean carrier, who is an attorney and domain name investor, and was a co-instructor with me at DN Academy. And then when I sold DN Academy to GoDaddy, I integrated that estate planning template and lesson into the new title Domain Academy at GoDaddy. So if you're a Domain Member Pro, you can get access to that. It's a whole, downloadable template that you can look at. And the big thing is, it's just getting clear communication with your family about your domain name assets, because a lot of them are valuable. And so, it's just helping you figure out how to communicate to your loved ones or whoever is going to deal with the estate should you pass away. Um, and what I do is I update it on a document that I have on my computer. I print it out um, once a year, and then I update the one that's in the safe and shred the old one so that my wife can, know what we have in our portfolio, what the valuable domains are, which ones she should hold long term, which ones she should contact Josh and try and liquidate. I'm just joking, Josh. And who my trusted colleagues are in the industry that would be 100% willing to help out in that unfortunate event. So, it's just thinking through stuff like that, password managers, domains, where they're located, and then having a communication plan. That's the big thing that we as investors need to think about at some point before we
Trusted
die.
colleagues. Well, that's one hand you can count on. Hey, Arif, thanks for joining us. What's going on?
Hey guys, yeah, I mean, I agree mostly with what Josh just said. I mean, ultimately domains are meant to be used, right? So should pass on, but this goes back a little bit to what we were talking about on Tuesday instead of we talk about today, in that the transition period between expiration and actual drop, right? Like, why is it that the registrars take control? I mean, we all know, like, just originally the rules 30 years ago just were written without this sort of thing in mind. There's nobody really predicted this, and then the loopholes of the fine print and all that stuff, the registrars kind of took over. It was good back a few years ago when Epic they gave us like, was it 91% of the funds from expiring domains when they auctioned them off. I think ultimately, like, as a community, we should maybe try to put some pressure on the registrars to have it so that our expired domains, we get a percentage of it. Whether they keep 15% commission or whatever it is, that's fine. That's it's normal. But that would be, I think, where it would be nice as a community we could put some pressure there. I don't see it happening. I mean, I don't know what the
But
revenue from
RF,
the
the pathway forward on that is either Darpin at Adam, who now has a registrar that hasn't launched anything, or Richard at Namecheap Spaceship.
yeah.
One of those two players who are more likely to do something like that and be more investor friendly could force the rest of the industry to do something like that.
Yeah. I mean, that ultimately, that's why the old CEO of Epic, he was looking for ways to attract more domains under registration, right? And that was one of the things. That's why I talked to him about name liquidate. And the problem is Epic is kind of it's not really relevant for domainers anymore. They've also increased their prices, so it's not really usable for us. But yeah, it would be great to have a registrar do that. I mean, ultimately, I also have to concede that the registrars need to make their money in some places. With GoDaddy, they're very healthy. They sell all kinds of hosting packages and email packages and all that kind of stuff. But there are other registrars that are like very thin and very like domainer centric, and it's like, okay, at a certain point they need to make some revenue. Now, obviously, sharing I think would be the best thing, but it's just all because there's a legal sort of loophole. Originally, the rules are just not written clearly, right? The intent originally was for it to be the blackout period, right? Not the registrar redemption period. Registrar redemption period was intended to allow a grace period for the domain owner to renew their domain in case something happened short term, a month or something like that. Well, that's 42 days or so. But then the second 42 period, when it's like the registry redemption, that was intended to prevent fraud, right? To make an actual blackout period where the domain would not resolve, the emails would bounce, and people could not take over somebody else's business pretending to be them. Right, so that's kind of been circumvented. Right now, is there a problem? Does this happen a lot? I don't know. I don't hear of it happening. But is it something that we could reconsider? Or I think my only issue is I don't want the rules rewritten, because the way things work right now suit me very well as a domain investor. Right, I like getting my domains at closeout for $5, $11. Sometimes now a little bit 30. I do buy some stuff at auction now as well. But I mean, I like that process. It works for me. But as a person who uses the internet, is it the fairest thing to take those domains away from the original owner when the original 42 days was intended to be there to allow them to renew for that entire period? I don't know. It's a moral question.
I think I think domainers in general just need to be careful what they wish for. To be quite honest,
Yeah, yeah.
it's like we do pretty well. We have a pretty good thing going for us. You know, there are plenty of things that should be a higher priority than that. It's like, you know, l- registrars are operating in a area that is far more complex than us, and you know, it's just I don't think it's our I don't think it's our problem. It's part of our inventory source for a
Yeah,
start.
yeah.
So um,
What you
yeah,
said
just
there, be
not
careful what you
some
ask for, is
not something.
exactly the thing. Yeah.
Yeah, not something that I would be worried about. And you know, you talk about guys like Spaceship and Namecheap. It's like, you know, they're currently offering a product at at 5%, which is, you know, their for sale landers and their registration path. You know, 24/7 support, whatever cost and overhead, you know, payment processing fee. They're not making any money on that. You know, and it's, you know, it's all good, and it's all good and well, like seeking these things, but when something like that happens, you know, when you get something, you also have to you're also giving something up. You may not see it right now, but you are. Um, so yeah, I mean, they obviously want to get more mainstream adoption. They want to get more domains under management. You know, and it's a pretty common thing to offer a low commission. But you know, I used to speak with Reza a lot. I got on calls with him, and especially when he was helping us with DNWE. You know, when they were they they were a pretty lean company, and they were charging 9%. They weren't like they like weren't even profitable at 9%. So um yeah, or I just think that in general, domain investors are pretty short-sighted. You know, they're not the only ones trying to run a business. Most of us are individuals. We don't have that much overhead. The businesses that we use to sell our names and enhance our business in, you know, various other ways. You know, I think a lot of the time it might be worth zooming out and just be like realizing that, you know, these are businesses too, oftentimes with a lot more at stake.
Many times, Josh, we were having conversations with, say, Richard or Todd at Dynadot or the Reberry brothers, and we think, hey, we have a lot in common. And really, it's like these guys are running 5-minute miles, and you're running 9-minute miles. You're both runners because you both are in you consider in the domain space. Completely different, meaning Todd has 50 engineers. I know
Right.
at Namebright has more than that, and I know Richard said he's
Yeah.
got 100. Listen, how many of you guys can
Exactly.
afford one engineer? Is breaking my back.
Exactly.
Had two of them. I had to shoot
Exactly.
one, take him out back, boom, and
A lot of us want to compare to like the you know to huge domains, but we're running completely different businesses. Most of us. I mean, I look at everyone in here, including myself. You know, we're individuals. Maybe have one, you know, assistant or something like that, but um, you know, a company like Huge Domains is is a completely different animal, right? I mean, you've got Dropcatch, you've got Namebright, so they're a registrar, they're a drop catching service. They've got, you know, 50 plus engineers, and you know their costs and their business models and what they have to factor in is completely different than what we have to factor in. So
it's surprising many times that they'll, from Richard to Jeff and Andrew over there, they'll listen to you when you're talking, and they'll try to incorporate something that you mentioned, and it's really big operations. But if anybody is familiar with having their names at Namebright, letting them drop, and then sending them through drop catch and getting a piece of it, because that's allowable now. You can also just be a private seller, and if you have your names at Namebright, you can offer them through drop catch. I really like the two things, offering them as a private seller and then allowing them to expire. I know it was in beta, they were allowing people, but so if anyone has experience with that, please raise your hand and share with us. Or also, this open discussion, if you have anything you want to share about topics that we've already touched on, raise your hand. We got a lot of topics coming up. Same goes. If there's
Hey,
a comment you want to make, come on. Yeah, go ahead.
do you know what the commission they're charging?
I don't know what it is that, I don't know. So when they sell as a private seller through Dropcatch, because I was seeing, who was, um, there were some friends of mine doing that recently. Basically, all I know is I haven't done it yet because I didn't have my names at Namebright that I wanted to do that for. But I think they might even, I don't know, maybe in some cases allow you to do it if your names aren't at Namebright. Maybe not, but maybe they're just doing it for a few folks who they have a lot of trust in. But I love the idea, Arif, and I'm the one that says, got my middle finger up to Rob. I always thought he was a loser at Epic. But I will say, somebody just mentioned recently they dropped a name at Epic. Epic sold it, and they got fucking all of it. They got the money for the sale, other than
Yeah.
9%. So that's just wonderful. Basically, you drop a name if somebody does compare, like we said over at GoDaddy, and they did something like this about 7 or 8 years ago and act like it didn't work. But could you imagine all the names I've dropped at GoDaddy that have been picked up, at expired auctions? Well, that'd be, thousands to me. I saw, plenty of names go for
Well,
hundreds, some in the high three figures, but many, just in the $150 to $150 range. And I'd like to split that with them. So we're all hoping for that. And Josh, I will say, I think,
They charge 15%, by the way.
okay,
okay.
drop.
Is there a minimum? Like if it sells for like $79, is it still 15% or? Oh, let me
I
look
can
at it.
check.
No worries.
There's plenty of people on their staff. Tony, a couple guys over at, Turn Commerce I really like that work for Jeff and Andrew that would be, I know, happy to come in here and say, you guys want to fucking use this service? Here's exactly how it works. They're, you know, um, all the companies want you to, use their, that's what you're talking about. Richard, maybe it's a break even. He's like, it's almost a free feature. He's charging 5%. Maybe they're not making money, but I do think, Josh, that the promotion that they get is hugely valuable. And I'm a believer that when you set
Oh,
your name
100%.
servers, you set your name
100%.
servers to any of these registrars, that data, I don't know how to value it, but I believe it's worth more than, like $10 a year for your domain name. That's why I always felt like if I keep my
Oh, definitely,
.com,
definitely. There is something to be said about offering free services in exchange for lots of things. Just data and growth and um, eyeballs and some things that don't even necessarily convert into monetary gains initially. Absolutely, you can definitely offer a bunch of services, even at a loss, right? Um, but uh, you know, don't that goes back to what I'm saying. It's like if they're doing if you're seeing that there's it needs to be made up somewhere or somehow.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, because that's what happened with I don't know exactly what happened with Epic, but like at a certain point, if you're charging super low commissions and you can't pay the bills, well, that's the problem. Like for me with Spaceship, it's fantastic. They're 5% commission, but at a certain point, is that healthy? Is it maintainable? He's got a big enough business that I'm not too worried short term. But like what's the actual percentage going to be eventually, right? For me, whenever I get these discounts for anything, not domains, but just like any like my cell phone or whatever it is, and they go, oh, the first 3 months are free. I go, I don't care about that. What am I paying after that, right? What's the long term planning going to be? Because that's what I want to plan for. I don't want to plan for just 3 months. I don't want to put my domains in a new registrar that's not making any money. That's going to fail in a year and have to move all my stuff out again. It's just I do appreciate what you guys are saying because all the companies they should be healthy, right? And they should make a profit. It's just there's a balance too. It goes both ways.
well, no harm, no foul. You just turn your servers on to them. You take your servers off. There's not that penalty, right, or that reward like Afternic does. Use our servers. It's less commission. You don't use them. You don't. And you don't need to have your names at Seller Hub. If you've sold a name at Seller Hub in the last month or two, you've moved it, raise your hand. We'd like to hear about it. I did notice, and we're going to talk about, we've got so many things to talk about. We'll talk about Spaceship for a second here because since we brought it up, but I did see Mike, Park.io Mike, who Mike Carson, who's sold that thing, but now he runs Space's protocol. Anyway, he sold Launch.to for 25,000. He held it for 10 years. I don't know if Ragu's here, but that's a .to Ragu. It sold Launch.to, but Mike mentioned that I think not a lot of .to sales. But speaking of this spaceship stuff, so Josh, it's only 5%, but people are saying, okay, you're only getting a couple things here, and that is, so you get a lander, big friggin' deal. Okay. Is it cool looking? I guess. I mean, I used it. I turned it on. I'm back now at Afternic with all my servers, and I turned boost on Arif, because Arif is getting sales all the time. So I turned my boost on. But so Josh, the 5%. Okay. So you get the lander, and then
First
the
and
name
foremost,
cheap.
it's a great product. It's a really clean lander. They've got a nice interface. You've got registration path exposure at Spaceship and Namecheap. There is no doubt that registration path exposure at Namecheap is valuable. So,
Well, you definitely want that.
and
But you said 24/7
yeah,
support. Well, they don't broker
yeah.
your name for you, right? That's why I'm with Afternic, because I don't want, when someone calls in or is interested in a name, I don't want to talk to them. I want a broker, even though we're going to talk about how these brokers could fuck up a free lunch. I mean, fuck, I'm seeing all sorts of things. But so what's the 24/7 support? What kind of support do you need? I thought you were
Yeah,
handling it.
I don't think they have a brokerage team, so it's all self brokerage, right? But I could be wrong on that, but that's my understanding. Uh, and yeah, I mean, if you've got a large portfolio and you want brokers to handle it, then it's probably not for you. But uh, you know, listen, at the end of the day, I think that it's excellent. I think it's a great product. I think it looks cool. I think Richard and Teddy know exactly, what they're doing. Um, you know, where I have a slight I guess, like, I'm not in complete alignment with some of the people that I see posting about it, is that it, this is not a this is not a reason to not have your names on Afternic. That's like, for me, it's not a either or type situation. It's both. You should have your names on both. And you know
Yeah,
there's I just don't I can't even begin to explain how much it doesn't make sense, all of these, various explanations as to, or attempts at explanations as to why you don't need to have your names on Afternic, because you do.
yeah, like you guys know my feelings for some of the things GoDaddy and Afternic, but you cannot be a domain investor and not have your domains in Afternic. It's just you're losing all, not profits,
I
but a
mean,
lot
there's
of
a counterpoint to that. There's a counterpoint to that, right? Huge Domains are obviously doing it, but they've got a pretty established infrastructure in place,
yeah, and they have traffic
to be.
abundance, right? They have enough inventory that somebody comes there for one domain and they don't really want it in the end. There's like 3 other domains that match up perfectly with the same thing they want, right? So they scale up in that way. But Josh, the real question, like I would have for you is, where do you intend on having your landers? That's the real question.
Yeah, I mean, I all of my landers are at Afternic. I use the buy it now custom lander. Um, and I also have, all of my names listed on Spaceship Seller Hub as well. I've only had them on there for, I don't know, a week or so. So I haven't had a sale on there yet, but you know, uh absolutely. And Richard was super helpful for me getting my portfolio over. I mean, the product looks cool. I bought a name on Spaceship that we talked about last week. Uh, the process was good. So yeah, I mean, but at the end of the day, I'm not, particularly my own portfolio sales data. I see a lot of my, naturally, I'm going to see a lot of my sales coming through Afternic because I use their landers, and obviously they, that their network is huge, but so many of my sales, most of them are just, they end up at GoDaddy. I'm I'm pretty sure most of my sales go to GoDaddy customers, and I'm just not willing to pay that extra 10% commission, um, at this time. That might change. I'm always willing to experiment on things, but um, part of the reason for that, and I've talked about this before, I don't want to harp on too much about it, is just that, at 15%, 20% if you're boosted, but especially at 15%, I just don't think it's a bad deal. Um, and for that reason, I'm not overly I'm not overly worried about exploring other options, because that, like I said, I just think that 15% is a pretty fine deal to get, the best exposure from the best registrar, that has the best marketing. um I tweeted about it the other day. It's like, I don't even have to do anything. Nothing. List my name on there, and when it sells, I get paid. End
Yeah.
of story. I don't even have to log into my Afternic account. It's just just get notified at every step of the way when the domain gets transferred and when the payout is scheduled, and then when it hits my account. So I'm I know that there's a lot of complaints, and I know that some of those complaints are warranted, but I'm not overly concerned about it, so I'm not, out there looking for, you know
Yeah,
alternatives.
for me, like, I'm pretty vocal about certain things, and if everything was across the board 15%, I'd be, what? I have nothing to say, right? But it's just the extra here, extra there, this and that. Can't use your own landers, blah blah. You have to price your landers at the same price or higher. You can't price them lower. Then, like, all these things are kind of just, that's where I get my issues. But you're right. Like, I mean, if you're keeping it simple, 15%, and even if the boost really works, again, like, I don't have the metrics to know either way. But even at like 20%, if they're giving it extra visibility, yeah, that would be my threshold of whatever it is. I just don't like that you can't really price your domains what you want elsewhere, and you can't have your own landers. But other than that, you're right. I mean, you just cannot be a domain investor and want to be profitable and not have your domains at least
Yeah,
put on
within
Afternic.
within within reason, right? And but we'll go to you in a minute, Bruce. I'm sorry, I know you're being very patient. I'll just get this thought out. Is that I also, I have my 50 or so best names listed on Afternic as make offer, so they don't have buy it now prices. And I'm using DNX landers on those. So, and I don't if you've got very high quality names, or even if you don't have high quality names, but you're just, not maybe so worried about having an optimal sell through rate, or you're not too worried about missing out on the occasional buyer, then, use your own landers, and, close deals via escrow.com, or close deals via Spaceship, or, FTPay, or what have you. If it there's not one way of doing this. There are multiple ways of succeeding in your efforts to, make sales. um and I'm not going to sit here and say that one is better than the other. Is you figure out what works for you. um what's going on, Bruce?
Hey guys, thanks Josh for letting me come up. I've had great success in the first month that I'm with Spaceship. Very rarely do I have inbound sales because I do most of my names are outbound. Uh, in August, I had two inbound sales at Spaceship, which I was happy about, and I have all my name servers there. But then the other day, 2 days ago, I get an email from Afternic that I had a sale on a name that was pointed towards uh, Spaceship. So, I got hit with the highest commission rate possible. But what was interesting is I outbounded this name July 30th. So almost a month goes by. It was my number one or number two most active page view, and uh, well, they go by two different. It was my number one in both those, number two in both those categories for the month. I mean, by far. Well, just under a couple hundred searches on that one name. But they bought the name at Afternic, and it was priced about $800 more at Afternic. And is that because of the GoDaddy trust factor? So, I mean, it turned out great for me because my net was higher than I had a price gross at Spaceship. So I was happy about that. But I think, people trust the trust factor of GoDaddy, and they'll go there even if they're paying more, because I can almost assure you this person, if I had that many searches on Spaceship and the person ended up buying the name on Afternet, GoDaddy, it's because they trust that place a lot more. That's the only reason I can think of, if they're gonna, especially paying that kind of money.
Well, Bruce, it happens. I mean, it happens a lot. Josh, that happens. You've mentioned that before. You got your landers. Well, now you got them at Afternic, but when you had landers at other places, well, I guess I was going to say, I'm sure Dave. Thanks for joining us, Dave. Bruce Breger here. I just want to tell the crowd, very seasoned domain investor. So Bruce was just mentioning has his landers at Spaceship, but still a sale for a much higher price goes through Afternic, which we've all experienced that. I mean, I've experienced when I use my own landers, still the sales come through Afternic, and we're not sure if it's it seems like it would have to be registration path, but they could certainly have just been a GoDaddy customer and decided to look for the name there, even though they had already been to the lander, like Bruce said. But Dave, thanks for joining us as well. What comment do you have?
Hey, Todd, thanks for having me. And Josh, thanks for all the input. I think that you kind of ended what you were saying, Josh, with where I'm at, which is, everybody's got to figure out what works for them. There's no question that Afternic and GoDaddy have credibility that Spaceship has not yet built. I think more than trust, I think it's awareness of GoDaddy versus, say, a Spaceship or even an Atom or any company other than GoDaddy. I think there's an awareness. I think it's the same thing with .com. I talk to people all day, every day. When we touch on domain names, to this very day, most people are unaware. Average people are unaware of more than maybe .net, .org. .com, of course, but that's it. They don't really know, and they don't know. Every person I turn on to alternative registrars, they come back to me saying, "Man, I wish I had known about this. This interface is better. The pricing is way better. I can't believe I was paying those prices at the other place." So, I think in time, we will see other companies, whether it be Spaceship or something else, emerge and provide the same exposure that GoDaddy's network provides, domain names. But I do think it depends on what works for each investor. I mean, for me, I'm kind of enjoying the new shiny thing. I'm playing with Spaceship. I've had a couple of sales, and I hope to have many more. I don't want to go into all my reasons for why I had frustrations with Afternic. I made many sales at Afternic. Maybe I should have tried your approach, Josh, just not even looking at the thing, just putting them in there, forgetting about them. But yeah, no, that was it, Todd. I just wanted to kind of throw that in there. One other thing I am watching that I don't think people talk about too much too with Spaceship is that when you look at the statistics, there's a little box there that says number of Spaceship searches. And, I don't know that it would be any different with Afternic, but right now, I mean, as I go through hundreds of names, Spaceship searches are zero. Just there's nobody searching anything on Spaceship. So, I think I'm watching that, and hopefully we'll see that increase. More, consumers and investors will search Spaceship for names. But right now, definitely, there's nothing there. Just nothing. I mean, absolutely zero all down the line. So anyway, that's it. Hope everybody has a great day.
Thanks, Dave. I mean, yeah, thanks for chiming in, and Bruce, just stay here. Continue to have comments. The topic I wanted to make was related to what Josh said about why would you not at least have your names listed at Afternic, even if you're using someone else's server because of their network. And you know the price is going to be high. You're not using their servers. It's going to be 25%, 30% if you got Boost on. But price your names accordingly, even though Arif brought up you're not supposed to price higher. Afternic says you can't price higher on us if you're lower on another platform. Well, until they enforce that, I mean, basically, you'd hate to get your account suspended there. I've never heard it done, but I think there might, not be a big uprising, but I just don't see GoDaddy doing that. I think they were happy, like with Bruce's situation. Okay, Bruce charged more here. We still got the sale. I don't, I think that's anyway what we have to do as domain investors. But some folks, Theo, Domain Gang, I really like Theo. I would like to have Theo in here sometime. He never really, he only types. He doesn't talk too much. I'm sure he does in person, but I look forward to seeing him at NamesCon. But Theo doesn't like GoDaddy at all. So he's like, fuck them. I can't wait to use, Spaceship, any other company. I'm not going to even list on Afternic. And it does seem like shooting yourself in the foot, maybe the hate there. Josh, I wanted to ask you, someone who also says, yeah, don't list on, Margot at Brand Bucket did an interview recently. And if you're not familiar with Brand Bucket, I don't know, make yourself familiar. But anyway, I always, I liked her attitude in being that she's so pompous. I never used, I sold something through Brand Bucket, but I mean pompous from years ago. She's like, listen, you guys got shitty names. I'm going to help you sell them, and I'm going to take 30%. If you can sell your own crap, go ahead, but it's not easy to sell some of your brandable crap. Okay, so I'm paraphrasing, but she has always basically been, I'm setting up this platform. I reach out to a lot of startups, to a lot of small companies. I'm doing work to sell your name, and I want to get paid. These names aren't, you have to bring them to people's attention. They're not looking for your name, especially brandables. So I have work to do. I build a network, I market, and I'm worth it. So, and if I accept your name, it's because I think I can sell it. And the pricing usually over a Brand Bucket between $2,000 and $10,000, let's say. Recently, she said that, yeah, now that we've had everybody delist, any name that's on Brand Bucket can't be listed on Afternic, we've noticed our sales have increased. Well, it only makes sense to me. Of course, they can't even get them at Afternic. So if somebody really goes to a land, wants to buy a name, they can't even do what they did, like with Bruce just now. Check through on GoDaddy and go, you know what? I think I still want to buy it here. It's not even available there. So it only makes sense that their sales would increase. So I was like surprised at, what are you trying to tell us here?
Well, their sales increase, but are the sellers' sales increasing, right?
Right.
Because
Does it benefit the seller? Exactly.
Yeah.
Go ahead. And then Josh, after you, go ahead, Arif.
No, that was it. That was all I was going to say. It's just like it's because at Brand Bucket, can you have your stuff before? You could have your stuff also listed at Afternic. Was there an agreement where you'd have to still pay a commission to Brand Bucket?
You could. And I gotta say something nice about Margot. She's the one that says, hey, we list your name, and then you don't think it's worth it, you want to drop it, we'll buy it from you. They were buying it for like 1%. If we priced it at 5,000, we'll buy it from you for $50. Of course, I think it used to be 1%. So you can imagine over at Adam when people have like, I know from friends, my 5,000 names in the premium. Could you imagine if your average price there was 40, $40. I mean, sorry, 4,000. And then they said that they'd be willing to buy your names wholesale for 1%, which would be $40. 40 times 5,000 was that 200,000? I think it is. So the point is, a lot of people try to recover money, but I like that safety net that she's saying, if you think this isn't for you and we've accepted one of your names, we will buy it. And she mentioned that the other day, so they must still be doing it. I don't know the rules around it, but Josh, what do you think? Brand Bucket, I mean, now that is it a detriment, or basically is it a negative that if you list on Brand Bucket that they preclude you from I'm thinking of a name, from listing on Afternic? Is that a no-go for you?
Gonna plead the fifth on this one.
Okay. Did you go to the island or no? So you didn't go? Yeah, yeah, and you brought up escrow before. I don't know, escrow getting a
I,
bad rap too lately. Somebody's saying, did a lot of people leave escrow? A lot of people that we know that were, I guess, some liaisons. Basically some of their reps. As they made some changes over there. Do you know?
apparently Matt Berry's doing a Sherpa coming up soon, and he's going to unveil some changes that they're making at escrow. Um, my understanding is that their support team is going to get better again. So I don't know, TBD. I don't do many deals there anymore, but it's definitely a useful source for closing your own deals that I appreciate having.
Yeah, we finish up on space. Basically, I wanted to tell everybody here, and we're going to close this room down about 40 minutes, about 10 minutes before the hour, the top of the hour, because right after our show, I want to give everybody a chance to get some food, have a restroom break, and then come back on Spaces at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern, because D3, Fred over there, the CEO of D3, who's created Doma Protocol, it's a blockchain that they plan on using to tokenize domains, is interviewing Richard Lau, founder of NamesCon, but he's a very seasoned, people late legendary, but I don't think anybody in the domain space likes to even be called legendary other than Rick Schwartz, maybe Mike Mann. They like to be like, if you want to say it about me. But anyway, a lot of long timers in this business. So um, Richard had great domain names, but he's going to tokenize hockey.com. But so a lot of your questions will be answered there about tokenization. Why would you tokenize a domain name? And what's the benefits and what are the requirements anyway? And then, like, what do you get caught up? You mean you have to have it at a certain registrar? I mean, what's the deal? So they're going to talk about it. So that's beginning at the top of this next hour. So we're going to go another 40 minutes here. About to leave spaceship. I guess they're going to do an LTO. Richard's really doing things fast there. Offering now a lease to own option. And I noticed once again, John Berryhill, lawyer, gets involved and says, yeah, so what's the actual terms on that? They always want to know about the agreement. But and of course, entrepreneurs are like, well, we probably some standard form, anything that's similar to all the other agreements that are out there that Afternic has, which I don't know. It seems like lawyers can, a lot of my friends that are the attorneys, they poke holes in a lot of these LTO agreements. Like, well, you can get yourself in a big mess. But I'm going to just ask you, Josh, and then anybody else on the panel, have you ever had an LTO go south in any way other than them not paying, but any way that they've caused you problems by messing with the domain name, getting it blocked or getting it whatever, I don't know, just any problems other than just a non-payer and you got the name back?
I have not, and I don't really know. I speak with a lot of investors that have done a lot of LTOs, and may have heard like one story from one person ever. So I don't think it happens very often. I don't think it's something to be that worried about.
Anybody else do an LTO and just like, boy, I wish I wouldn't have done that, or I wish I would have known the terms prior?
No, I've had a few now. And nothing. I've had only one that didn't pay, but they they pay like 9 or 10 of the 12 payments. So I was like happy for that, almost. So yeah, that's the only thing.
Yeah, never heard of anybody having any of the horror stories that lawyers can think of.
Yeah, I did have one, and they put a bunch of porn up on my website, and I had to go through it all. It took me days. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and then you realize it was still your website with pictures of you. Is that it?
Yeah, it was all my own porn anyway. They tapped into it, but I'll tell you, I mean, I was really, what do you call it when you're like a gymnast? It's like versatile, limber. Okay, so this I wanted to say real quickly to Domain Smoke, Dennis Tenorino. He was an entrepreneur. Basically, they did a written interview with him. Just want to shout out to Dennis because he was basically giving a lot of, like I said, thoughtful advice to new domainers about, listen, you can do this. It's not easy. You need to learn. But it's the thing about his story, the story that they had on entrepreneur.com, was goes from spending $36. He bought like 4 names and years ago, and then sold one of them for 700. And he said he got the bug, and one of the other reasons he got into it because he was like starting a company and called after Nick, I think, or GoDaddy, and he said, "Yeah, I want to buy this name for my company." And they said it's like fucking 50,000 or something big, and he was like, "Geez, that's out of my budget." But that's weird that these domain names can sell for a lot, and and then of course the broker said, "There's something more in your range." So yeah, even back then, they're always, they're always trying to send you to a different name. Soon as someone thinks, 8,000's too much, they're like, before you register the .net for $12 or whatever they have available, they'll try to sell them something for 1,900. But I mean, I don't know. So brokers just but
Yeah, big shout out to Dennis from Domain Smoke. He's such a good guy, and that was a great article. Um, yeah, I appreciate him.
yeah, Josh, I was mentioning to the folks last week um, about you buying portfolios, and I said the guy's buying portfolio. No, I was just saying, people offer you portfolios, and what I want to ask you about the criteria that you look for, and if there's a bunch of good names in there, but then there's, say there's 1,000 good names, but the guy's trying to sell you 60,000 names. What do you try to get the ones you want out of it, or do you try to just get the overall price lowered? But I mean, what criteria do you use when someone brings you a portfolio? Look at just tons of data. I mean, what do you consider before buying a portfolio?
Yeah, so I mean, I'll preface this by saying that I've never bought a very large portfolio like that before. I've been offered a bunch of them, and I get offered them quite a lot. But I think for me, Um, if I was to buy a large portfolio like that, it would be at the detriment to the seller. To be quite honest with you, and which is like generally how it is when any of us are buying domains. We feel like we're getting a great deal. For me, I'm generally looking at what I think I would be able to get back from that portfolio within the first year. And typically that's what I'm willing to pay, whatever I think that I would be able to get back within the first year. I think most sellers are looking to get something more in line of what they think they would be getting back from it within like 3 to 5. That just doesn't work for me.
I would tell people about when I was selling this portfolio of 4-letter. Braden was like, I need all these numbers, and I need to know all this, and I need to do all. He wasn't interested in buying them anyway. He just wanted to cause me issue, see if I had a bunch of data that I said I had, and he couldn't even finish his email
Yeah, I mean,
before I sent it back.
a lot of the time, people are really just interested in what the cream of the crop, right? They'll buy all the rest of the stuff if it means that they're getting something at the top that they really like.
And, Tony said, speaking of 4 letters, Tony name said, pronounceable 4Ls are just too much anymore. Not even worth investing in because the buy price is too high. But and then Dave Sustiel, who sells some names. Is that Dave here? Is that Dave? I'm trying to see if that's Dave. Yeah, he's here in the crowd.
Yeah, he's in the audience.
He was mentioning that, yeah, he likes them if it's got a word, with a letter, Jet Q. You mentioned you like Jet, JETQ.com. He said, yeah, maybe. He said he's out buying for 5 to 10 grand. But what do you think for a, 4-letter pronounceable? Are they overpriced? Is Tony like, I'm done with that area? And what do you think of the terrible ones, Josh, like the floor when you can get them for 100? I picked up FRXE.com on Dropcatch for $160. I love 4-letter names. I don't give a fuck about, some are obviously better than others, but what do you think about the pronounceable ones? Are they overpriced? And what do you think about the floor on the so-called crappy ones?
I think the crappy ones are generally pretty worthless. So the fact that they've got a floor price is great for people that hold them. That's my honest opinion on that one. And then the I definitely understand what Tony's saying. Like even the pronounceable ones, especially at auction, they're just going for a little bit too much relative to what they sell for at retail. However, like it's really hard to just make a blanket statement on those because there are some very, very good pronounceable 4letter.com, especially like great CVCV ones. Um, you know, they historically get used so often by, you know, startups and companies, you know, that want to have a nice good looking unique brand. um so I do understand what Tony's saying. I think that it from like, because they're so popular and because everyone knows that they're so popular, I do think that there are better ROI opportunities. But does that mean that they're bad? That they're bad buys? No. But again, like, not every pronounceable four-letter.com is created equal. There are some very very good ones, and there are some not so good ones.
Hey, well, Mike's still here too. So there was this code.xyz that I don't know what it ended up selling for, but the renewal was like 600 and some dollars, which if the price was super low, it still seems like what a great name, code.xyz. But then you brought up in the post or in the thread, is vibe.xyz better? Do you know, did those have the same renewal rates, and what did those end up selling for?
I think there's still like 7 or 8 days left. Just to be, I mean, I'll probably bid like 5,000-6,000 on code.xyz. I'm not sure where it's at now, but it wasn't anywhere near that
It's at
yesterday.
1,075 right now.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely put in a $5,000 proxy, but I won't get it. So $500 renewal for code.xyz, I can deal with that.
Yeah, and like I said, I think there are investors that do deal with $500 or $1,000 renewals every single year. And they'll hold, you know, we know these guys, Josh. They'll hold like a handful or two of them for the really premium SLDs with a good TLD. And I think that this one qualifies as that. Code is like a phenomenal SLD, and XYZ I think works with it.
If anyone wants to share, please raise your hand and comment on anything. But I'd love to hear, what's the highest renewal that you're willing to share? Because some people have big renewals, they don't want to, share it. But Josh, what is your biggest renewal in your portfolio?
I think mine is trading.bot. I'm not sure what the renewal is on that. Is it, might be like $2,000.
I'll look it up. That is $2,000. Jeez Louise, dude.
Is it $2,000?
I'm gonna look here. Renewal.
Might say like 2,500.
Trading.bot is, well, it says 2,729, but I'm pulling this data from either Namecheap or Pork Bun. So it varies by registrar, but it's around $2,700 per year. That's a lot, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a lot.
You
I
gotta
got an
have
offer.
some steel cojones for something like that. I do not. I do not. How
Yeah,
do you
no.
even think about something like that? Do you get discouraged if you don't get inquiries on it? Are you looking at traffic? Because I'm sure it's getting traffic. What do you think of when the renewal comes due for that? Are you just like
I'm
your
honestly,
vision
I'm
sets
just
there
more
for 10
I'm
years?
more interested. I'm more interested than anything, and you know, I'm at a point where I have a little bit of capital where I can make these kind of like, I don't know what you would call them, gambles without
Yeah,
it, you know, hurting my business, hurting my bottom line too much.
right,
And I think that what I've seen in the past is that when these kind of like newer TLDs come out, um, it's really like the best of the best names that do end up selling.
right,
And you know, the difficult thing is like, you don't want to buy those best of the best names because they often come with these kind of like large renewals or very large upfront costs. And so, you know, I made a decision that I was going to buy some bot names, and a part of that decision is I'm only going to buy the best possible ones that I can find. Uh, and I, you know, that one was the highest renewal of the bunch. But renewals, there are higher renewals than that. So, and I received a $4,000 offer on it the other day, and it does get quite a lot of inquiries. So, um, I don't know.
yeah,
We'll see.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I credit you for going for it, because yeah, this is the kind of domain that clearly the registry saw that it was highly valuable. Trading, the word, and bot clearly go together. And it's going to be, we're starting to see people doing that. Morgan Linton was talking about using a bot to do some trading. He put $1,000 into I think it was Comet or some browser that will actually take actions for you with set criteria, and he was going to see how much he could make with it. So it's coming, and it's the kind of thing where, like, if you own agentic.com 2 years ago, then you are finally in your heyday before people realized it. So that's our job, is to see where the puck is heading and try and be there. Sometimes we get it right, sometimes we don't.
That's right. Well, I own agentics.com, so I'm close.
Well,
See, and then there's me, where I will see .bot coming out, and I'm like, oh, I like .bot. It's 3 letters. I don't know if bot is going to be the word that people use, or agent, which is longer, or or just stick with .ai or whatever. And then I go through and look at every single SLD imaginable that could fit with that. And I think I end up with like a single .bot. I got helper.bot because helper.ai is taken off, helper.com is owned. It's a decent SLD in a standard renewal in .bot, and that's where I'm playing right now.
So do you look at helperbot.com, because that is, before I look at actually any of the SLDs, when I'm looking for like the left and right to make sense, that's the first thing that I do, is I just combine the two and look for and look at what's happening with the .com, make sure that is not for sale, and if it is for sale, for me at that point is an automatic pass.
I don't look at it as an automatic pass, depending on how much it's for sale for.
Right.
I do look a lot of times. I just bought a domain for the GoDaddy challenge, super.rocks, because I love the SLD super. And .rocks is okay. I don't know, whatever. It is what it is. But it's the kind of domain name like you have, where it could be somebody wants to name their company super. It's used in every single extension. It's like the 111th most popular SLD, and that includes like trademarks and stuff like that. And somebody might choose super.rocks because they want a super TLD and nothing else is available. There's very few that are for sale. And so I look at superrocks.com to see what was there, and it's like a I don't know, a diamond or jeweler that is building a website. So yeah, I do look at that as one more data point that I think
I
it's
think
worthwhile.
on that one, I think it's less of the case, just because it's so SLD specific that the TLD in this case really wasn't. They don't like necessarily combine that well, but they don't need to.
Right. You're talking about super doesn't need to combine with rocks. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Just because it's kind of like, you remember when, and super is one of those SLDs that is gaining popularity with AI because of like super intelligence and all that kind of thing, right? And it reminds me of like when 2020, 2021, when Ethereum was like huge, and you saw ETH SLD selling in the most outrageous TLDs ever. Like, I don't know, I think like ETH dot like Paris or something sold for 50 grand, and you're just thinking, whoa, what's going on here?
Exactly. That's what I was thinking when I bought super.rocks. And I think I bought it on the $50 closeout day because I'm like, this SLD is just too good to pass up. And rocks is, it's not some rando one, or it's not a, one that, I don't know. Most of us maybe don't know that rocks exist, but it's not like an ICU or a OOO or something like that we don't even understand from a social standpoint what it means.
Yeah, it's not bad actually. I quite like that. I think that's a good buy for $50. What's the renewal?
Standard.
Yeah,
$38 or whatever it is for a
cheap,
.rocks.
for that cheap, maybe. But hold on, get your .rocks. Get your okay. I want to say, hold on, Chad. I know you want to say something. Well, go ahead, Chad, and then I'll go to Jack. Sorry, Jack.
Okay,
Go ahead, Chad.
you guys were talking about trading that bot, correct?
Yeah, you own tradingbot.com, right?
Yeah, because so I don't know if you've, I don't know if you've, we have tradebots.com too. So, um, and like, so like for me, I look at it reverse, right? If I'm looking to build that brand, I can go to the URL. I can see you'll sell it for 20 grand, right? That gives me a known position, or it actually gives you your known position, which is good, right? Because then that's how transactions occur. Um, but then also like, I think packaging those two up, then it makes it an even more compelling development environment.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, I saw because when I was researching, I saw that the site that you have up on it. I think I also have service.bot, and I'm pretty sure you have servicebot.com as well. I think
Look
that
at
was
that. We
it.
just made a love connection here.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got service bot too.
Yeah, but you have like these sites on them, so they kind of look like semi-developed.
Oh yeah, well of course, right? Because I think one of the things we'll talk later is just the trademark, right? When there's a lot more activity going on with UDRC or UDNHs and the right to use, right? I'm sick of having to fucking justify me owning domain and my right to own it. I have the right to own it when I pay money to own it, just because it was 20 years ago. So these help position the site to for usage of right to own it. So
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. I mean, and obviously, like they're both stellar names. So when someone decides they want to use them, they're going to go out of their way to try and get it.
Hey, all right. Well, we got plenty to talk about. We're going to get back to that. But Jack, thanks for being patient. He came up here. What do you have to comment
Sure,
on?
sure. Thank you, and hi everyone. I have a question for Josh. Hi, Josh. How are you?
What's up, Jack?
What's up, brother? Um, Before my question, trading bot is a great domain, not just for crypto that right now is strong. I used to work in forex and binary options company. So back then, the trading bots were already popular. So it's amazing. My question is, are you increasing the price for $2,500 each year more because of the renewal? Or you just keep the same price and just pay the renewal?
Yeah, that's a good question. I will probably look to so initially, I wasn't even sure if I was planning to renew it. I've got a lot of inquiries and offers above the annual renewal price, so I will renew it now. Um, in terms of like pricing, I think it kind of depends. After I renew the name, I'll probably raise the pricing, and then as you get closer to the renewal, I'll probably lower the pricing. That's kind of how I'll approach it. Um, I think there are multiple ways to do it, right? I think that if you're planning to renew the name, then raising the price each year, I could see that making some sense with a super premium name like that, because
Mhm.
I guess as time goes by, you probably it probably is more likely that you'll sell the name. So yeah.
Hey, Mike, I own gamblingbot.com. Check that out. It's like $100 renewal. Trading, same thing. Gambling.bot. I'm sure Chad doesn't own gamblingbot.com, so I don't
He
have to.
may.
I
Who
don't have to
knows? But
connect with
yeah,
him there.
back to Josh's point, like with the ETH as the SLT, it was selling in every single TLDs when ETH was hot. Today Bet will sell in every single TLD. Yeah, there's just certain words that like are just always hot, or and we're watching out for ones that are growing in momentum.
Since he brought it up, Chad brought up trademark, and he has a site, dntrademark.com, that you can sign up for to get notification when someone files a trademark, say like with your domain name. Now, Chad, you and I talk about it a lot. I mean, stuff like this. So tradingbot.com. If somebody wants to build a trading bot, there's nobody can trademark trading bot for a trading bot because it's descriptive. So what type of I mean, how do you expect protect a descriptive domain?
By using it first. I think what we started seeing with the reason why we created DN trademark is people were not doing UDRPs, they're doing trademarks and then backing us into a position where we can't use the URL without getting lawsuits. And I hate lawsuits. So one of the things that we said, okay, well, let's start putting some different landers on there so it looks like we're using it to maybe back them down a little bit. So I think, first to use usage, even if you act like is one way, just because we're seeing a ton of trademark registrations now that are basically trying to box us in from usage, which hurts the brand in one sense. It hurts the brand because you can't sell it, but then if you build it, you're going to be exposed to a lawsuit from the company that owns that brand. And so I don't know. It's a rock and a hard place. Is get move first and document it.
Right, but the point is, so they can try to. What normally happens is it hurts a potential buyer thinks, oh shit, there's somebody else has a trademark on it now, I can't use it. But like I said, if it's a descriptive mark, you can't. You can't have oranges.com and be the only one that sells oranges. Okay, you can certainly establish would be a a mark to it, and then it would
Well,
probably get on the supplemental
there are
registry.
some caveats there as well. There
So,
you go. Exactly. I was going to say you can get it onto the supplemental registry, and after a period of 10 years, it can then get grandfathered into the primary one, even if it is descriptive.
sure. No, and you made a good point there. But yeah, I was bringing up supplemental. But the point is, it's really you can only protect so much. But what Chad's saying is you want to show people that I might as well do it before you, especially when it's referrals.com, fantastic fucking domain name. Well, it's really descriptive, and we know how likely people would use that type of domain name, or and you don't want someone else, if someone else starts using it for, that's a weird one because people could use referrals in a certain sector, maybe just for real estate or referrals just for automobiles, and you don't want to
That
take the
would be a
risk.
hard one.
Yeah.
That would be a hard one, Todd. Like we had a recent one, loanvault.com, right? Because Comvault is now on CNBC advertising the goat. So vault names are hot right now. So Loan Vault, and we didn't do our research first until got the offer in, too low, get them up, got within range where we said, okay, let's consider it. First thing I do a trademark search. Boom. Somebody's had that trademark for, whatever, 15, 16 years. It's the only trademark, but it really, then we were like, okay, well, do we sell this just to get it out, hot potato out? But then we're like, you know what? It's so generic enough to like, we're okay with picking a fight on that one. And so I don't know if it's the trademark owner because it went through Afternic, or if it's another person looking to build a product that didn't do their final trademark analysis, and then you get to the final end like, oh, sorry, there's a trademark on it. So they come through here, and those are the ones that like they're generic enough to where they're it's a line, but I don't want to mess with it, so we just gave them a price. Even then, they were trying to hunt the price. They just your approach is like, just tell us your offer. Just tell us your highest and best and final offer. And we're no, you send us your highest and best offer, and we'll, if we're interested, then we'll consider it. Because I'm sick of getting looped into that game where people try to bait you to sue you. So
Right.
that was just makes us cautious.
No, good point. They'll try to get you to mention a price, and then they'll hold it against you. Listen, I hope everybody on stage can stick around for the next 10 minutes because I want to talk about what type of interest, Josh, especially like interest in a domain fund, investing in that, or a TLD fund, those types of things. But Naomi joined us on stage. I haven't spoke to Naomi before. Welcome. What comment or question do you have? Yeah, you see how it works? I say something, I throw it to you, I go on mute, you come off mute, and you say whatever you got to say. Naomi, are you there?
Hi, how are you? Nice to meet you. I'm actually Adam. I'm from Ireland. I'm using the phone today. I just wanted to ask a question. I'm new to this game. I'm in it about 6 months, and I've got some really let's say high profile domains. And I heard somebody mentioning earlier on about portfolios and things like that. And I just wanted to know, like, because I'm a bit confused about it. Like, if you have, let's say, a number of domains that are just, let's say, listed over 3 or 4 of the main sites like GoDaddy, Afternic, Cedo, etc., and they're valued over the 3 of them, let's say, at €1 million. Just let's say, what are you likely to sell them for?
I guess we need to know some specific names. So, Naomi, thanks for joining us. Ask that again, but also as domainers, we're going to be asking, okay, so you got some great names, a few of them that are great names. What's one or two that you consider to be one or two of your best names in your portfolio?
Right. Well, I'd have well, they'd be spread across a number of things, like a number of TLDs. Like I'd have Vegas, I'd have Pix, but some of them are valued like across networks at 300,000-400,000 across 4 or 5 of the same ones, and I'd have like funky ones like Rugboard. I'd have to go through the menu. I'll have about 400 or 500 domains, to be quite honest with you.
Sure, yeah, we have thousands too, but you said Vegas. Vegas dot what?
111.vegas would be one of them. I'd have 777.surf that has a good price on it. I've got goldmum.com. I've got good ones ranging from like 5,000, but then some of them are going up into the hundreds of thousands, and they're verified like that, like not just on one site, like they'd be verified right across all the sites, you know.
When you say you're the ones you're pricing them, so you could price something at 100,000. Me, like if you give me 111 Vegas dot whatever, yeah, I'm like, no, that's not. If I can price it at 2,000, we're not interested by it. What I'm getting at is
I,
domainers feel like their names are valuable, so that's why we immediately bring it up. People shoot mine out of the sky too, like we're playing fucking whatever that is, skeet. But so you're saying that you have big prices across a lot of networks, but you're pricing those, right? You're coming up with those prices.
no, I'm not coming up with those prices. These are like when you're going into appraisals, for example, and you're getting them appraised, like individually appraised across the networks. So as I said, like I'm new to this game, so I don't know much about it, like, to be quite honest with you, you know. I only got into the game. I was in property for years, and I was in entertainment, like the club industry and all, for years, you know. So I just got into this game during the past couple of months. I was in an accident, like, and it was a bad accident, so I was sort of homebound a lot. So that's basically how I got into this, you know. So I just started picking up things, going into auctions and things like that. And I picked up a couple of decent names. As I said, now I did when first starting out picking up stupid things like numeric stuff, a lot of numeric stuff. But some of the numeric stuff is good as well, like, you know. Um, but I'm just confused about it, like, so, because you see them selling online, like you see people posting every day, this sold on Afternic, this sold on Cedo, this sold here, and then you're putting all your domains in and you're getting them appraised, and some of them are coming in at ridiculous money across 4 boards, and I'm saying, well, what do I go and what do I advertise these at? This is where I'm confused, you know, like how do you go out and price these, you know? Like, I don't go out and post. I see people posting, like, and some stuff going up, like, and it's just ridiculous money, like they're looking for certain things, and I'm sort of saying, well, he's pricing that at €100,000. I'd give €500,000 valuation domains for the same price. Do you know, the type of way?
Yeah, let me chime in a little bit. You said your name is Naomi, is that right?
Oh, no, sorry, I'm not I'm Adam.
Adam.
Naomi's
I was going to say,
partner.
you know, you don't want to make too many assumptions in today's day and age, but I didn't think you sounded like a Naomi. Um, any, anyway, Adam, it's nice to meet you, mate. You
You
know,
too.
get at the beginning, like getting into the domain industry. I'll be totally honest with you, it's confusing. It's really confusing because, you know, a lot of it is because it's very difficult to recognize some of the subtleties between, you know, a name that is worth 150,000 versus a name that, you know, is worth 10, 15 bucks. Um,
Yeah.
especially when you've got like all these appraisal services like that you've mentioned. I'm sure that you've probably looked into like the Atom appraisal service, Estibot, GoDaddy, and you're just getting, you know, a massive variety of like different numbers that are being shot out at you, some of which can be very high, some of which can be very low. um, so, you know, and then, you know, you're looking at domain reports and people posting, you know, sales, like you say, on X, and you know, none of it seems to align with the research that you're doing. So
Exactly. Well, I'll give you a laugh. I had about 300 domains up on one of the sites, right? And I was saying to myself, these aren't getting any views at all. Sure, I only realised 2 weeks ago I had them all locked.
yeah, yeah. Well, you know, when I got into the space, you know, let's call it about 10 years ago or so, I kind of went through a similar thing, and it's just, you know, what I would say to you is that at the beginning, most of the names that you buy, you're gonna love, and then, you know, 6 months from now, you're probably not gonna love them as much. That's the truth. It looks like an easy game to get into, but it's actually very, very subtle and very, very hard. Um, what I would recommend is kind of just like slow down on the buying a little bit. I haven't looked at your portfolio, but this is the same for everyone, regardless of who you know who it is and what they're doing. Is try to slow on the buying side and focus on uh, basically seeing what sells, learning about what sells, and learning a little bit about naming conventions and understanding when something is like an outlier. What I would tell you not to do is look at domain appraisal service tools. Just completely ignore them. I don't look at them. I haven't looked at them for years. It's not worth it. So I would ignore those completely. Uh, if I don't know if you're a user of GoDaddy, but if you
Yeah, I
are,
might go, Daddy. Yeah.
yeah, they've got this thing. It's called Domain Academy, and it was actually created by a guy who's one of the speakers, Mike Seiger. Um, One of the best educators in the domain space, and most people have gone through that course. And you know, you don't need, it's completely up to you. You don't need to go through every bit of it, but if you even just have time to have a look at it, there'll be little nuggets in there that could be very helpful in answering some of the, you know, some of the bigger questions that you have.
Hey, Normie, this is Raghu here. Are you interested to buy some domain names? I need to pay my rent. I'll give you
Raghu,
Guzman.
you're done, Raghu.
Yeah, and Adam, thanks for joining us. And I'm pretty rough, meaning, you know, try to just say, hey, you know, it's like the tough love. Josh was saying, Domain Academy, please come back into here each week. We talk about, you know, we'll touch on new investors, and Josh and two of the savvy guys here on stage, Josh and Mike, we're talking about .bot names and .rocks, and these are extensions you only want to really mess with. I'm giving, you know, once you're an experienced, seasoned investor, because there's a lot of options out there, and I can tell you already are familiar with other extensions. Well, many times it's more than just a waiting game. You might invest in some things, and of course, even if it's .com, you know, some of the more popular ones, they'll never sell. So we touch on here in this room, and you're going to find a lot of resources with the blogs and stuff. I'm sure you've already encountered. You know,
Well, this is the first one I've been on. Like, I just seen it tonight, and I was following it. I seen it was being advertised. I said I'd come on to it. Like, you know, like I just picked up some handy things over the last couple of months. Like you'd have the likes of robot crabs, wasp fish, window spiders, all that type of sexy bags, all that type of stuff. There's some really cool stuff there with graphics. But I'm not really, to be honest with you, I'm not really into game. I'm not. I have money. Like, I'm not really into game to make a lot of money. I'm in it out of boredom, if you can understand what I'm saying. You know.
yeah. Well, no matter, we're only going to be open for a couple more minutes today because there's another space right after this that's really going to be more of an advanced learning space where they're going to talk about tokenizing domain names. And that's really sort of the new age of domains. Are we getting into a time where you're going to take a domain name, you're going to tokenize it, meaning put it on a blockchain, and then it gives you the opportunity to have all sorts of features, from fractionalizing it to maybe taking loans out on your name in a real efficient manner. But
That's a
definitely,
brilliant idea.
yeah, definitely. I was going to say to all the people in the room, I hope to see you here in 10 minutes. In that room with D3. You can look on my timeline and see the show, but it's going to be easy to find here on X. But certainly, so next week I think we'll start off with some things that I wanted to talk about. We were going to try to do some innovation. I mean, Chad and I are definitely doing it with a domain fund, and we're probably going to, we're wanting to do that on DOMA protocol, but basically just a traditional fund where it's like a mutual fund of domain names, because a lot of new investors, say like Adam, you get involved. If you're not real familiar with what names to invest in, maybe a fund which has never been successful in the past, you don't find them out there, maybe an option, an opportunity that new investors would want to take advantage of. Just like when you're investing in equities, you're like, I don't know what stocks to pick. Why wouldn't I have people with some experience go out and try to find undervalued opportunities for me to invest in? And then I can invest in a bucket of them, and maybe, hopefully, my return would be better than if I tried doing this individually. And then we'll also talk about the next round of GTLDs, where there may be some opportunity for, certainly a lot of people can't afford to have their own extension, their own string. So that really makes sense to sometimes pool money together for those interested in owning a string. We're going to talk about new waves, new types of investments that are on the horizon in the domain space. But we always go back to individual domain investing and tips and tricks and things. And there's so many topics I didn't get a touch on today. I guess I'm not even going to get into it because I want people to have a chance to take a break. But next week we're going to talk about, I'm not even going to mention, talk about using brokers, as well as, all the data that like Josh utilizes when he invests. So how important is data and stuff like that. But so to everybody, thanks for being here today. We really appreciate it. Like I said, at the top of the hour, there's another great room that's going to start. So I hope to see a lot of you there. And then we'll talk about tokenization next week, and we'll sort of recap what we're hearing from Fred and from Richard Lau in this next space. Thanks so much. Have a great rest of your day, wherever you're at. Take care. Be safe.
Thank you. Sorry, where's the next group?
It's going to be, you'll be able to find it on here. You can go to my timeline and go down, and you'll see it's a show called D3. DOMA Protocol is putting it on, but you'll be able to find it right here. What you can do is, I guess you'll be able to probably click on me and see that I'm in that room. So I'm going to be there, but that's at the top of the hour. It should be pretty easy to find. Check on my timeline and you'll see a link. Thanks, Adam. Thanks for stopping in.
Thanks very much.
Take care, guys.
Thank you. Bye-bye.